Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Emperor's New Clothes, a class that I put together based on my experiences of garbing various royals. We're also joined today by one of the women who has been on basically every single garb team with me through all 6 reigns, Baroness Morgan, who's my Grand Baroness, my Nona Baroness. So I have this PDF that I'm going to walk you through. Is my basic class handout. If you want it at any point, I am Ayla Roth on Facebook. Shoot me a message. I'll shoot you the PDF, and that way you can have it if you ever decide that this is a project that you would like to undertake. So we all know the story of the Emperor's New Clothes, right? So the idea is he was so proud and got taken in by a couple of ne'er-do-wells for everything that the empire was worth, and he walked down Main Street wearing nothing. So in a lot of ways, when you, as a royal, seek out somebody to help you look nice for your reign, it can be very nerve-wracking, the fair amount of money going into it, whether it's your money or your family's, help your SCA family is helping you put together garb or whatever. It's a lot of cash going out, and being able to respect and trust the people on your team is very important. So if you decide that being a garb person, helping a set of royals put together their garb, integrity and trustworthiness is like key, absolutely key. Making sure that they know what's going on at every step of the process, and at that point they are your patrons. Whether you're doing it because they've offered to give you a couple of dollars, or you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart, they are your patrons. You make the garb that they would like. And we'll get into how to help royals remember that we are a medieval based group. So let's just get started with the PDF. So the most important thing about a royal garb coordinator, or royal tailor, sometimes they're called, is not that you know everything about every period or style of garment that a royal might want. What is important is that you have, or or you can find, or you have connections at your disposal of people who are knowledgeable in those styles, and you can reach out to them. In fact, it is possible, like it says, to coordinate everything for an entire reign without sewing a single stitch. Theoretically. I myself have never managed it. I cannot keep my hands off the fabric. I have planned entire reigns based on, I get to make this thing. Everybody else can make everything else, but I get to make this thing. How do we start? How do we proceed? So first things, where are the resources coming from? Do the royals have a private stash? Are you really good friends with the royals and are willing to get into your private stash? Do they have family members, SCA family members, that have, funds or fabric that they're willing to donate? There is also the possibility that royal has the money at their disposal to just pay somebody or pay some artisans to make the things, and really all you are at that point is a buyer, a sourcer, right? If for some reason materials are needed during a project that haven't been provided for ahead of time, and an artisan needs to go get it, whether that's threads or buttons or whatever it may be, make sure you have the conversation with your royal first. Is there going to be a reimbursement? When I was coordinating for Christian and Helene's first reign, they're up in Canada and I'm, middle of Oregon. Half of the artisans lived in Canada, shipping fabric up to Canada, shipping patterns up to Canada, arranging transport for garments to make it down to Crown or down to whatever. Those are costs that you really have to try to think about ahead of time so you can have that conversation. Who's responsible for that? Theoretically, the royals should be responsible for all of the costs involved, especially if you're doing all of the work for free. But like I said, sometimes you're besties. Like when Turk and Seamus were reigning, I put a fair amount of dollars in, mostly because I just wanted that Seamus to look great. That was a choice I made, but I could have absolutely said, sorry, we have to cut down on the number of garments we're making you because that's all that is affordable at the moment. The second thing, after you figure out where the resources are coming from and how the dollars are being allotted, now don't get me wrong, sorry, before we move on, I get really uncomfortable talking about money. I've owned my own business and I'm still really uncomfortable talking about money. You have to bite the bullet. You have to have clear, concise understanding before you can even begin to move forward. Because otherwise, that's how you end up in the weeds. That's how people feel uncomfortably, like guilt-ridden to put in money that they don't have. And then you end up with uncomfortable feelings between you and your team, or between the royals and your team. And that's not something you want. So money is important. Step 2, what do they want? And usually when I start, and there's a million ways to do it, when I start, one or the other of that royal team has an idea already of what they want to wear. They usually have pictures or people. Oh, I want to look like Attila. During my whole reign, I want Attila's entire wardrobe. Okay, well that's easy. You can get on Facebook and get pictures of Attila and everything he wears, right? Or somebody says, I want to look like Sir Ian Edward Anderson. Great, he's on Facebook. Pictures of everything that he's got. Or they can say, I want a Slav dress. Okay, what is your idea of a Slav dress? Can you send me a picture of what you're thinking about? That way there's no miscommunication where the royal thinks they're asking for one thing and they are actually being made something else entirely. I've had that happen a couple of times, mostly because somebody not directly on the Garb team wanted to make something special for one of the royals, and was, it was all their money, it was all of their time and energy and whatnot, and so I had no purview over that. And then the garment came in and it was not what we had planned on. So it was a key piece, an outfit for a major thing, and then it ended up not working, and so we had to scramble last minute. Those things happen, but pictures, that's Facebook, Pinterest, books, paintings, pictures. That way you have a clear idea of what they want and whether or not you can do it, whether or not you can find somebody who's willing to do that. In my experience, late period garb, there are less artisans out there who feel comfortable doing late period garb, first of all, and then after that, there are very few who are willing, because it's a lot of work. Late period is a lot of layers and a lot of extra handwork, and not every artisan has the extra time that it takes to put together an entire late period outfit for somebody, let alone more than one. Keep that in mind. The other thing you want to think about is how many items do they want? Is it, we want step up garb and step down garb? Okay, so say we're doing Norse step up and Byzantine step down. Okay, so that is in theory what? A pair of pants, a tunic, maybe a caftan, and then a dress, a hangarock, and maybe an apron, like the flappy bit, which has a name and I can never remember or pronounce it. So that's 6 pieces, assuming they already have shoes, assuming they already have wenigas, assuming that sort of thing. So that's 6 pieces of garb that you have to find artisans to make fabric in order to create it. On the other hand, how many pieces was it, Morgan? 52 individual pieces of garb we did for Torquil and Alina. Alina showed up at my door with like 3 or 4 5-gallon totes of fabric, and I just started putting packages together and handing them out to artisans. And it wasn't until I got onto my spreadsheet to start tracking all of that that I realized I had asked people to put together 52 pieces of garb. If you think each piece of garb takes somewhere between 3 and 40 hours, depending on the piece, times 52, it's a lot of man hours that went into that. So keep that in mind. How many items do they want? Is that realistic? Do they have any fabric allergies? Is wool no? There are, do they have polyester allergies? Yeah, poly blends can be cheaper and you can pretend that they're silk in some cases, but there are some people who are absolutely allergic to polyester. Have to consider those fabric allergies. Or like, Torquil's not allergic to wool, but there's a certain texture of wool that makes him break out. So he has to touch everything before he can say whether or not he can wear it. One of the things that has been brought up to me the most is the level of period authenticity in some of the pieces that I've coordinated for Royal Reigns. Like I said earlier, the royal at that point is your patron. If they want perfectly period things, and they state perfectly period, hand sewn, period patterns, all of that, then you got to have the conversation. Okay, that takes extra time. Extra time means less pieces of garb. If, for example, Catherine and Anton, during their reign, Catherine wanted a late period reign, but Anton has a really hard time with overheating. So we had to find a way to make the garb he was wearing look as period as we possibly could, while simultaneously taking out as many layers as we possibly could. So was it put together in a perfectly period way? No. But did he look royal? Yes. And did he not faint on the throne? Yes. And that was key for us. Summer rain, hot days, don't pass out. And then, of course, the timetable. So in summits, the time between you win a tournament and the time stepping up as the coronets of the summits is a prescribed period of time. You can always guarantee there's X amount of time. But at a kingdom level, sometimes the crown tournament is closer to the coronation than other times, which gives you less time to work on their fabulous step-up garb. And most people want at least a glorious step-up outfit and a glorious step-down outfit. So you have to figure out how to get what they want in time for whatever they want. Now, do they want an outfit for every major event they go to? That has to be plotted out on the calendar so that you can figure out, for example, fabric comes in, beautiful silk fabric comes in, and they want it block printed. Okay, so I call Morgan, or I call Maria, and I ask them, hey, they would like this block printed. Okay, what block do they want? What do they want it to look like? Do I have that block already? Or do I have to carve that block first? Having that block already takes less time. Great. Have to carve that block? It can be weeks before it's functional and ready to go. And then do they want 3 yards block printed? Or are we doing like a full Gothic cathedral train, blah, 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 and we're talking about 15, 20 yards of silk that need to be block printed? That's a significantly longer amount of time. So all of that has to get plotted out. Do I have to order the fabric? Is that going to be 3 to 5 days? Is that going to be 3 to 6 weeks before the fabric gets in? So those are, when you're plotting out your timetables, things you have to think about. How to think about those things and how to plot them out. I love spreadsheets. Excel is my friend, and Google Calendars is my oracle. That is how I get through every single day, especially when I'm event stewarding or garb wrangling or anything like that. So I love spreadsheets, but you can do lists. I like Facebook groups because it allows the entire team to work together, and I can put the pictures, and we can put all of the pictures of examples up on the Facebook group, so it can always be referred back to. But if Facebook isn't your jam, or you're working with a group of people who are really great at being artisans and not so great at technology, you can have your own way. So that could be like phone trees, carrier pigeon networks, whatever works for you, okay? So you've got what they want figured out, you know where the fabric is coming from, you know how to go about it, what the timetable is. Now we start measurements. If you are not comfortable or familiar taking measurements, have one person who is comfortable and familiar taking measurements take all of the measurements. Because if you've got somebody in Canada taking measurements this one time, and somebody, you know, in Vancouver taking measurements another time, and somebody, you know, Portland taking measurements another time, not everybody takes measurements the same way. And so not all of the patterns are going to work the same way. So if you've got an experienced pattern drafter and you give her the full list, or him the full list of measurements, they can work off of that. But if they've got, oh, bust measurement was 36, this person took it, and a day and a half later it was 39. Okay, which one is right? It is easier just to have one person take all of the measurements for both people. That way it's consistent across the board. And then you have to start finding your talent. Yes, measure twice, cut once. Sorry, somebody just posted that. Measure twice, cut once, and they are correct. So next you have to find your talent. And talent comes in multiple forms. Pattern drafters, seamstresses, yeah, that's a word now. Tailors, weavers, are they having Wenigas hand woven? Are they having trim hand woven? Are they having fabric hand woven? Only so many people who do that, right? And they're all kind of in high demand. So got to seek them out as early as you possibly can. Embroiderers, embroidery takes significantly more time than anybody really thinks about. And that's something that has to get started right away if embroidery needs to be done. Dyers, block printers, are there metalsmiths that want to make cool things for them for their step up, whether that's buckles or special aglets or who knows? You'd be surprised what comes up. And finding those talented individuals, and then asking them how much they're willing to take on. So for example, I can ask Morgan to do a piece or two of block printing, depending on how big it is. She's usually down for an outfit. And then I usually hold her in reserve for the, oh my gosh, everything absolutely went to heck and I need help right FN. Like, it doesn't fit. And we have to magic a new outfit in the next 24 hours. I'm on my way from Salem. Can you please start this project for me and I'll come pick it up and I'll finish it, or whatever. So having that Hail Mary person in your pocket is really good, especially so that you are not always the person who has to pull all of that out of your own backside. Follow up and follow through is just as important as anything else we've talked about today. Come up with contingencies. If you are working with an artisan you've never worked with before on anything ever, you don't know what their work ethic is. They might be great. They might be timeline driven. You might not know that until you get into the project. They might get into an accident. They might step out of their van and break their ankle and end up having 6 pins put into it. Happened, legitly. Then what? How does that shuffle happen? You have to find somebody to go to their house, pick up the things that they were working on, or talk to their excellencies or majesties or highnesses or whatever Is that a piece we can live without for now? Can we push that out a little bit? So contingencies are really important. And facilitation, like I said, how do you use the SCA Pony Express? Do you mail it? If I have to order the fabric, it comes in a couple of weeks, and I have to get it to Morgan so that she can print it, and then I have to get that fabric again from Morgan to somebody else so that they can make the garment. And during all of that, Ainsley's weaving trim for the final project, so I have to tell Ainsley when is the appropriate time to have that piece of trim woven so that it can then get to the person who's doing the final bit of the whatever. You know, things to consider. So the very first piece of garb wrangling I ever did was for Turk and Vesta. Turk won. We ended up at Terra and Ellie's house, and I think Acacia had offered to help find people to make garb. And then she came to me and started asking me questions, and I mentioned to Vesta that I was helping Acacia with that process, and Vesta said, "Good, you're hired." So surprise, actually, it was not the first time I did garb coordination. The first time I just made it all, so, well, fair portion of it. So when Luciano and Elizabeth reigned, I did most of their garb by myself. I learned from that process. Don't do that. Don't make all of the garb for a reign. That is insane and very stressful. So this was my first spreadsheet that I put together for Turk and Vesta. You can see, you know, Vesta's on one side, Turk's on the other. They didn't necessarily have, it has to be done by X time. I didn't even think about that. They just went over all of the things that they wanted and really just what they needed. Morgan says, don't make garb for your own reign if you can help it. And that's the truth. Whew. So this is basically just what they needed. So they knew they both wanted to do a Byzantine, they both wanted to do a Roman, they both wanted to do some Rus, and they both needed their arming kits updated. Mostly because Turk was in old cotton hand-me-downs before he reigned the first time, and so he just wanted to not look like a schlum on the throne. And Vesta wanted, well, I suggested that Vesta should wear something other than sweatpants on the field while she was princess. We had the time, we had the energy, might as well, right? So you can see on some of them with the blue underlines, there were links to exactly what kind of overcoat are we talking about, exactly what kind of tunic. So those are web links directly from the spreadsheet to a picture so that whoever's in charge of it can see what we're talking about. And you can see I have got for each individual garment, what fabric we're using, who the pattern drafter is, who the seamstress or tailor is, and who the embellisher is, if any. Obviously, like with the toga, we didn't really need an embellisher. And that way you know who to contact. Say, sorry, I have to move my own screen here. For this over tunic, this Byzantine over tunic, Sarah is the seamstress, that's Morgan. Morgan's the seamstress, and she got the pattern from Suvia. So Sarah Morgan knows that if there's any questions with the pattern or what is, I'm sure this is a word, but it's scribbled, I don't understand, she can contact Suvia directly. Hey, what does this little thing right here mean? Or, so there is no gusset here, but I'm used to there being a gusset. Does there need to be, or did you account for that? Like, those conversations can happen. I learned a lot from this process too. Every single time I've done it, I've learned a lot. So this ridiculously long list, if you're ready, was, oh no, I didn't even show the whole list. This one was for Torquil and Elena. And there, I didn't even take a picture of the whole list, just some. And for this reign, what I did was, like I said, I did all of the patterns myself. I made paper patterns. I took the fabric for the thing. I took the copy of the paper pattern. I folded it all up. I put it in a brown paper bag. I taped it shut. I put Torquil leather coat, due X day, and I handed it off to the artisan. That was it. And I just handed out packages like it was Christmas. And artisans came and picked stuff up. And don't do that. Like I don't like this spreadsheet. I don't like the way I did it. Yeah, it was nice to have the packages, but I didn't track it well enough, which is part of the reason why we ended up having so many pieces of garb. I'd like to have a better idea of where things are and who has them and all of that. Then I got into color coding. I had a couple of artisans who said that they absolutely loved the idea of color coding. So I think this was Christian and Helene. So Helene was yellow and Christian was green. That way you knew who it was for, and there's so much more information on here. So what it is, what the fabric is, when it's due by, and there's a difference between when it's due and what event it's for. So for example, they're headed off to Pennsic, but there isn't another event that they're going to between July Coronation and Pennsic. So if things are going to be delivered, they have to be delivered by July Coronation so that they can be packed to take to Pennsic. Who is doing the pattern, or what kind of pattern the creator is looking for, who created the garment, who the embellisher is, what the embellishment is it finished? I kind of started doing away with the is it finished column. That's why things are grayed out. If they're grayed out, they're done, they're delivered, everybody's happy. And then I started keeping notes over here about where we were in the process so that I didn't have to keep it all in my brain. It's written down and anybody can look at it and see where we are in the process. This one was for Turk and Seamus, same sort of thing. But in this one, I went back to my first iteration where I just put links to the inspiration photos directly on the spreadsheet rather than putting pictures on the Facebook page, because there were some people who had trouble navigating Facebook, but could absolutely send them the link to the shared Google Doc, and they can click the button, go straight to the link, and that was easier for them. And that way they didn't have to check Facebook and the Google Doc and I think it worked out pretty well. And then this one was for Njal and Sif, and they wanted less stuff, but they wanted more attention to detail on their stuff. So as you can see, I'm just going to read it off the screen. As you can see, there are a number of ways to set up your organization. I prefer spreadsheets, but even there you can have a variety of options. It boils down to works best for you and your team. Keys to success: communication and teamwork. Number 1, regular check-ins with everybody. There are some people who are going to be frustrated and maybe think that you're a little bit micromanaging. Hey, checking in, where are we at? Because you're ultimately in charge. You're ultimately responsible. Hey, checking in, we've got a couple of weeks before this is due, and have you cut the fabric? Have you scheduled time to do the thing? We're 2 weeks out, you still have to sew the thing and I still have to get it to the embellisher. You know, regular check-ins are important. And it lets you get a heads up. Hey, I just found out my grandma died. So I'm gonna try to get it done before, yes. So Raven says basically the Garb project manager, and that is exactly what you are. Hey, so back to what I was saying. Hey, my grandma died. I'm gonna try to get the project done before the funeral, but if I can't, I'll make sure that so-and-so gets it. Or, hey, I just lost my job. Or whatever. So it is important that you let your team know from the beginning. Failure to do the thing is not a failure. Failure to adequately and timely communicate with your project manager and with your team is a failure. It is worse to go, oh, I just couldn't get to it. I'm sorry I didn't say anything. Or I had a panic attack about cutting into this $65 a yard fabric, and I just have had, paralysis about the whole thing, and I haven't even touched it yet, and it's due next week. That is a fail. Saying, hey, nope, I took this on, and I just really can't. I'm sorry, I just really can't. In enough time to find somebody else, that is not a fail. That's great. That's good communication. We appreciate that. Feedback is important, both up the chain and down the chain. So up the chain allows the royals to know what the progress is. Because like I said, they are trusting you with probably a lot of money, and definitely trusting you with their image across the known world. Whatever they step up in, those pictures get taken. It goes online, it goes on social media, it goes into the annals of history. They're trusting you to hopefully make sure that they don't look like they're wearing tea tunics. I mean, unless that's their thing. If they're doing like the 90s throwback kind of thing, great, fine, whatever. But usually they're not trying to do that. It also allows your royals to understand why, when, or how there might be changes to the original plans or designs. So they might have this idea in their head, this is what I want it so bad. I saw somebody do this one time. Do this. That's all I want. All I want is this. And either you can't, the fabric isn't available, the artisan isn't available, the timeline is unreasonable, or, in some instances, that was a very specific kind of outfit that was fitted for a very specific shape of person, that letting them know, hey, this is more what it's going to look like on you. Is this still what you want to do? It's not calling them out for having an imperfect shape, just helping them understand what they're asking for and helping them kind of brain through what they need and what they want and what that image ends up looking like. And then communicating down the chain is extra important as well. So first thing is always, always, always thank your team. Thank them earnestly, regularly, specifically, and publicly. So because you usually have multiple people working on a particular garment, for example, Christian and Helene's step-up garb for their first reign, Maria did the block printing, I did the patterning, Morgan did the Queen Helene's dress, and I did Christian's outfit, and then somebody else entirely did his circle cloak thing. It's all one outfit, one step up, and there were a significant number of people involved. So when the pictures go up and somebody says, oh my gosh, that looks amazing, who made that for you? Now, if you're the royal tailor, chances are somebody's going to say, oh, Zuleika made that for me. And it's going to be Zuleika's responsibility to say, it was absolutely a team effort. So-and-so did this and so-and-so did that, because you are not in this job for your own glory and gratification. If you don't thank your team, next time you want to do this, there's going to be no team. They're like, yeah, you took all the glory and left me high and dry. So no, I don't want to work with you anymore. Updating patterns. So, for example, Morgan gets a pattern, and as it turns out, there was no ease added in the pattern. Okay, how do we fix this? Oh, well, for now, I can put like extra strips down either side so that it'll fit and it'll look like it's on purpose. But going forward, if this is going to be used again, we need to update this pattern so that the next person who gets it doesn't have the same problem. Updating the number of projects. So usually it's cutting down the number of projects, but occasionally you'll be walking along with one of the royals and they will spot the perfect fabric ever, or they will see this outfit that they absolutely can't live without. Or even though you tell them when you take their measurements that neither of them are allowed to get pregnant, sometimes that doesn't always work. So changing the project from a very fitted outfit to a not so very fitted outfit sometimes has to happen. And then sometimes timetables have to be updated, like we were talking about earlier. Oh, this is going to take up more time than we thought it was going to. Can we move it? Sorry, I might be backwards. Anyway, move it down the line and move something easier into that slot. So having good communication with your team helps everything stay on track. Remember that we are all part of a volunteer organization. We are part of a learning and teaching society. Everything for everybody is a learning opportunity and a teaching opportunity. Even all of the students that I have taught me something in return. And sometimes that is how to be a better teacher. Sometimes you just get in this habit of, this is how I do the thing because this is the way I've always done the thing. And then you see a student do it completely differently and it works better, and your brain explodes a little bit and you learn something you didn't know. But the key points are to be gracious, humble, respectful, and always stick up for your team. Always stick up for your team. If you're walking along and somebody says, oh, that outfit that they were wearing is meh, 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 it is your obligation to step up and say, isn't it amazing? It's the first thing she's ever sewn in her life. Aren't you so very proud of her? Aren't you so very proud of His Highness or Her Majesty or whatever for showcasing up-and-coming artisans within our community? Isn't that great? Take that opportunity. Stand up for your people. Every artisan is unique and tends to have very big feels about what it is that they do, or how they do it, or their ability to do it. All of us are nervous bags of water. All of us are, right? And especially if you've been asked to work on a royal reign for the first time, sometimes that anxiety can be very high. Sometimes the stress can be a little overwhelming. So you have to handle each artisan like a genius, carefully, with humility, with understanding, because every artist really is in some way kind of a genius. Sometimes that's a mathematical genius. Sometimes that's an engineering genius. Sometimes they have the ability to just picture a thing that you can't picture, and then poof, like there's glory. And sometimes they work better with more rules. They need more input. Sometimes they work better with, here's a general idea, this is the shape it needs to be, go forth and make magic. And you kind of have to figure out which way each artisan works. And some artisans have a hard time accepting changes to what they wanted, or have a hard time with questions about how they went about it or what the process was. Usually those questions come because it's moved from one person to another and the next person just needs to get up to speed. But sometimes asking questions of that artisan can make them a little defensive. So be aware. Thank them regularly, earnestly, specifically. Thank them first. Thank you so much for doing this thing. You're a valuable member of our team. I love the way X turned out. Before I get started, can you get me up to speed on the process of this? So you've heard of the poop sandwich, right? Like good thing, bad thing, good thing, easier to eat, right? Similar concept here. Thank you so much. You put in a crazy amount of effort. I appreciate that. Can you help me understand this part? Thank you again. This is going to be wonderful. I hope to work with you in the future. Like, it helps. It really helps pave the way. And don't get me wrong, I've done it wrong before, especially when I'm like, I got to get everything done. I need to know all of the answers, and I'm going through my checklist. I'm a bullet point person. Bullet point. Morgan knows, and she's like, answer. How are you doing? Is everything okay? Other people are not as used to my checklist. Question. And then they feel like, why haven't you done it? Which is never what I mean. But sometimes text is bad, and that's absolutely the way it comes across. I've fell victim to that, and I have to try regularly to make sure that I'm being as easy to communicate with as I want other people to communicate with me, if that makes sense. And that, like Raven points out, that's really a big part of being a project manager, is not just managing what's happening, but managing the people that you're working with. And because it's a volunteer organization, very rarely have I worked on a reign where people were paid for their effort. Really, they're doing it for a love of the reigning couple, or like there are some artisans I've worked with, they don't do competition. They find it very intimidating, but they want an opportunity to make something that is going to be seen, so that, oh, who made that? Oh, so and so made that. Oh, I gotta talk to them because I don't know if they know about this thing. And then you end up with the Laurel handshake and all of these questions about, what do you know? Have you looked at this? Oh, have you looked at this dig? And then, it provides opportunity for people to learn in a safe space, to expand their skill set, to honestly get to know the people in their community, so that if something else comes up, you're sitting around the campfire and somebody says, oh, I really love that outfit that Catherine was wearing at Coronet. Oh, well, I worked on that team with them, and that was so and so and so and so. I learned a lot. And as Morgan just points out here, it does provide artisans an opportunity to make things that they might not make for themselves. I am in the time period of, ooh, shiny, in the land of, I'm pretty sure I could make that. that's where I live. But there are other people who, they're Norse, or they're 12th century French, or they're whatever, because that's what they like to wear. Working on a royal reign might give them the opportunity to step outside of that box, or to learn another way of going about the outfit they've been making for themselves for 15 years. Oh, I've learned 6 or 8 ways to make a hangarock, which is the apron dress. Everybody's got their own special pattern. I've learned about all of the accessories that go with it. I didn't know anything about that before, but having the opportunity to do it a few times, like now I know. Now somebody says, have you ever heard of a Norse apron dress? I'm like, I've got a whole file here of like the 8 different ways that you can make that. I didn't even know that there was one way. Now I have a whole file. This is the part that His Excellency is going to cut out. I'm umming. Any questions? Morgan says, save every pattern you get for future use. Do that. Sometimes, because a royal will come back to you afterwards and say, you were the one that sewed my such and such, right? Yeah, that was me. Can I pay you to make me another one? Sure, I still have the pattern. Of course you could pay me to make you another one. But also it helps you, how do we put that together? what was the steps on that? I think that I can translate that from a fair outfit to a Tati outfit. Pretty sure, yeah, I can do that. That's, I have the pattern still, but that's always nice. I think that's it. If nobody has questions, nice.
I have a question.
Yes, go for it.
I'm hearing talk about, because of all the rains that have been extended due to plague, like having a crown tournament and then coronation at the same event. How on earth do you plan Garb for the step up when you don't know who it's going to be more than a few hours in advance?
So at that point, it is absolutely on everybody entering that tournament to, at the very least, bring the nicest thing they own to the event before they enter the tournament. So Kingdom of the West, Principality of Oertha, that's what they do every single coronet tournament. You fight, you step up the next day. So everybody comes to the tournament with their box of prince and princess stuff. Probably a good idea to put some good garb together, because it'll probably be either a couple hour turnaround or like a next day turnaround. At that point, so most people who are entering the tournament with an intent to win probably have a handful of people in their back pocket that they want to ask to be their head of retinue, or head guard, or whatever. If they want garb made for themselves, probably a conversation they're also already having. Like, hey, if we step up, if we win, we step up the next day. Can I ask you to help us put garb for the rest?
It's basically a be prepared in case of emergency situation. Yep. We just had that in our barony because we were supposed to have a baronial changeover about 2 weeks after the end of polling.
Yeah.
So all three couples have to have the garb ready just in case, because we don't know who's being chosen.
Right.
Well, and even if you're just having garb that is in the proper color schemes, so, like the black and gold, et cetera, whatever, for the white trim, whatever, for on tier. But like, if you're doing a principality colors, you're going up for baronial colors.
I'll tell you, that's a conversation that's happened a lot. Color schemes, whether or not to strictly adhere to the Heraldic Colours. So, for example, our baronial colors are black and gold. I wear a lot of dark coal and like really dark gold, which isn't technically black and gold. Same thing with quality. I've had people that, like, I can't do cobalt blue. I'm sorry. Can we do something else that's bluish? Not everybody looks great in those bright heraldic jewel tones. And then, of course, not everything that you have made or that gets made is in heraldic colors. Sometimes, because you have to wear this stuff when you're done, right? When you step down, you have all this beautiful garb. It doesn't just go into a trunk when you're done. You still want to wear all of this beautiful garb.
And some cultures have prescribed colors for court dress depending on gender and status.
Right, exactly. So some people want to go more period, and so they don't wear the heraldic colors. They, like Turk and Vesta, when they stepped up, it was in the Byzantine, and it was in very traditional Byzantine colors, not necessarily principality colors.
So have you had royals step up that want to do Chuchuk?
I've had to have conversations with royals about, yes, you have to wear something across your loins while you're sitting on the throne.
Aren't you you are fully clothed?
Muted.
I was going to add that I feel very fortunate that our Baronial colors are the cobalt blue that is actually my favorite color, and gold. That's been a conversation that we've been able to avoid.
Excellent.
So, are there any one-size-fits-all garments that can just basically become part of the regalia and get hand down from royal to royal? Just sort of to reduce the burden?
So regalia is a little different, and that has to go through the Chamberlain and have a bid process and.
You get what I'm asking about, though, right?
Yeah. Honestly, it would be very difficult. It would be exceptionally difficult. Just the 6 reigns that I have done, the body types and sizes of each and every individual is so drastically different that unless you wanted everybody to step up in a giant garbage sack, and sometimes a more giant garbage sack than others, I mean, I don't think so. And granted, most of the time you step up, you have the baronial or principality or kingdom cloaks. So, I mean, that ends up being something you put on during the process and is overarching. So, like, I don't do black and gold. I do gray and red. You can still wear gray and red, and then you get your black and gold kingdom, you know, the cloak that they put on during the ceremony, and then you look all put together. So that's totally doable.
It's probably harder for the non-fighter. For the fighter, it's easy. I mean, like, for example, the king and crown prince have the, you know, king, crown prince war tunic they can always throw on if all else fails.
Yeah, those war tunics are manky and gross, and usually
Well, fighters.
One-size-fits-all toga then.
I made new ones for the Prince and Princess of Summits while Catherine and Anton were reigning, that are the light linen ones. I sewed them. Sarah block printed them. Morgan block printed them anyway. But even then, like 1 or 2 wearing, they need to stay on the field over there, yards away.
This is a really weird question.
Okay, go for it.
There are cultures where it is traditional at step-ups to give away matching clothing to the members of the royal court so that the entire court matches and it looks cool.
That died gloriously in the 90s. Also, like the kitty match, like perfectly matchy outfits. I'm over it. Like thing 1 and thing 2.
No, I mean, it is, I'm not saying a 90s thing, I'm saying it's actually a historically authentic practice so that you would have your entire court in blue or whatever.
I mean, yeah, you can totally wedding it up all you want to. It's a expensive prospect, and just like weddings where you have 6 bridesmaids that are all different sizes and shapes and whatnot, that they are all willing to wear, could be problematic. So it is just financially a very difficult undertaking.
So it's perhaps better achieved by picking a color that everyone already owns and encouraging them to bring that particular garb that they already own.
Like Sin, House Day, Colonel Sin, he's been on multiple kingdom retinues. So he went out and he got him, actually paid me to make him kingdom colored stuff that he could wear while he's guarding their majesties, because that's something that he enjoys doing on a regular basis. So he always looks official and important. You can also do, as Duvessa pointed out, you can do tabards and sashes with, you know, somebody shows up to be on retinue for the day, whether it's guarding or ladies in waiting or sorry, people in waiting, and you just hand them their sash. it is, in the colors, and everybody on retinue's got one, so it's very obvious you're part of retinue. And then tabards and sashes can be closer to one size fits all for that sort of thing. And then you can wear whatever garb you want and just throw on the sash over the top. And usually you can hand that project out to one person on the team. If that is something that your royals want to do, they can either, block print it or applique the device or some sort of indication so that they're all consistent. Or you can have a party, honestly. Everybody comes over and works on them together, and you've got one person cutting and one person on the serger. No, it's not period, but believe me, surged edges on tabards will be your friend. That is another thing to have a conversation, like we were talking about, the conversation about how close to period correct each royal wants to be. Are we hand finishing everything? Are we serging things? Does it matter? How about are all the other under things get serged, but all of the over things get hand finished, or vice
Hot
versa?
glue and duct tape.
No duct tape. No hem. No hem tape. That's a personal opinion. If somebody does garb for me, there's no hem tape. Mostly because it doesn't wash very well. It either completely lets loose after a few washes, or it like glues it. You ever like wash something with lifesaver in your pocket, and then like the candy gets warm and it like melts into the fibers, and you can just see the lifesaver living there? The same thing with some of those hem tapes. They just like the glue melts into the fabric, and then it's not as attractive as you want it to be after a while.
All right. Well, if we have no further questions, then we can go ahead and let Her Excellency escape into her evening. Once again, I would like to, here's both of us, we would like to express our thanks for this class. We really appreciate it's a really comprehensive deep dive. I appreciate the thoroughness with which you've gone into the process. It is something that is a very very important overview to have. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't have realized how much work went into it unless if we didn't step up ourselves.
Yeah, we were told what our garb was going to look like, but that's because Her Excellency Lindis was in charge. So
I asked a bunch of peers, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no problem, but you will get this hand finished." I'm like, "Ooh, okay."
Yeah, and Adele says, and I have to agree, I love the idea of the spreadsheets with the links. That is it is an incredible idea. It's remarkable how much of our game gets played on a modern level. But yeah. So yeah, we appreciate the class. Thank you so much for taking your time to present this to our group.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Take care.